All right, today's lesson is actually going to be about analyzing Antony's speech to the Plebeians in Act 3, Scene 2 of Julius Caesar. And what we have here in his speech is the use of verbal irony. Verbal irony is when you say the opposite of what you actually mean. It means there's a discrepancy between what you say versus what you actually mean. He uses repetition. He's going to repeat the words honorable man and honorable men, and then the other word that he's going to repeat a lot is ambition. He's going to use an appeal to pathos. Pathos means emotions. And so we're going to discuss how he effectively uses emotions in his speech in order to get the plebeians to riot. We're also going to talk about how Mark Antony uses two props in his speech to effectively get the plebeians to take his side and then riot. The two props that he uses are Caesar's will and Caesar's body. So as we start off with basically the beginning of the speech, here's the text of it. Friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears. I come to bury Caesar, not to praise him. The evil that men do lives after them. The good is often tarred with their bones. So let it be with Caesar. The noble Brutus hath told you Caesar was ambitious. If it were so, it was a grievous fault, and grievously hath Caesar answered it. From the get-go, we look at the Romans and countrymen, and this is an appeal to pathos, which is emotions. And the thing that they're appealing to most at this point is the idea of patriotism. Brutus has already appealed to patriotism in his speech, so now Antony kind of picks up where he left off. Then we move on to the noble Brutus hath told you that Caesar was ambitious. If it were so, it were a grievous fault, and grievously has Caesar answered it. So now we're going to move on in noble Brutus. In this case, he's using the verbal irony because he really doesn't think that Brutus is noble. And in fact, the thesis of Brutus was that Caesar was ambitious. What we're going to see is by the end of this speech, Antony has disproved that theory as well. And I hate this thing because it's not aligned, so I'm just going to have to cheat. Ms. Curry, can you click for me? So now, here under the leave of Brutus and the rest, for Brutus is an honorable man, so are they all honorable men, come I to speak in Caesar's funeral. Now, what we see here is the repetition that we alluded to earlier about the words honorable men. And we're also talking about verbal irony at this point because he does not believe they are honorable men. He means they're the opposite of honorable men, that they have not lived up to being honorable. What they've done is not honorable, it's bad. Come I to speak in Caesar's funeral. He was my friend, and he in this case means Caesar, faithful and just to me. But Brutus says he was ambitious, and Brutus is an honorable man. Caesar hath brought many captives home to Rome, whose ransoms did the general coffers fill. In other words, because of Caesar, we had money. Did this in Caesar seem ambitious? When the poor have cried, Caesar hath wept. In other words, he helps the poor out once again. And we talk about the appeal to pathos. That's emotions right there. He helped the poor. Ambition should be made of sterner stuff. Yet Brutus says he was ambitious, and Brutus is an honorable man. And once again, verbal irony. What we see, too, is a comparison and contrast. These things are compared to him being ambitious. Caesar helped the poor. Ambition should be made of sterner stuff. Compare, contrast. But basically we come back always to that verbal irony. He was an honorable man. Was he really?
Maybe. What did I do?
Oh, awesome.
I'm sorry.
Oh. We gotta go back. It's all right. It's gonna be on YouTube. All right, here we go. Just make sure that we click that right there. All right, you all did see on the Lupercal, I thrice presented him a kingly crown, which he did thrice refuse. Was this ambition? So now he's got proof. I gave him a crown, but he didn't take it. Was that ambitious? Yet Brutus says he was an ambitious, and Brutus is an honorable man. Once again, more verbal irony. I speak not to disprove what Brutus spoke, but here I am to speak what I do know. Now, in this case, we have an ethical appeal, because I'm not here to disprove what that honorable man said. I'm just here to say what I do know. You all did love him once, not without cause. What cause withholds you then to mourn for him? O judgment, thou art fled to brutish beasts, and men have lost their reason. Bear with me, my heart is in the coffin there with Caesar, and I must pause till it come back to me. And at this point, Mark Antony starts crying. And that is a pathos argument. It's doing it again. There's got to be a short somewhere in this thing. All right. You click to the next. Move up. There you go. And the next one after that. All right. Oh, masters, if I were to just... Now, here we come to a point in the speech then where the plebeians have already started to turn against Brutus and are on his side. Oh, if I were disposed to stir your hearts and minds to mutiny and rage, I should do Brutus wrong and Cassius wrong, who you all know are honorable men. Jesus. I will not do them wrong. I rather choose to wrong the dead, myself and you, than I will wrong such honorable men. And once again, verbal irony. He really doesn't mean that they're honorable men. But here's a parchment with the seal of Caesar. I found it in his closet. 'Tis his will. But let the commons read this testament. And this is one of the two props that he's going to use in order to influence them. Go ahead and click to the next one.
Click.
There we go. Have patience, gentle friends, because at this point the plebeians want Antony to read the actual will. He goes, oh no, I must not read it. It's not fitting that you know how much he loved you. Once again, he gets their attention. He uses the will as a prop. Being men, you'll hear the will of Caesar. It will inflame you. Wow, this is just epically making me angry today. 'Tis good you know not that you are his heirs, for if you should, oh, what would come of it? Will you be patient? Will you stay a while? I think that I've wronged the honorable men, and then honorable men we know is verbal irony, and that he doesn't actually mean it. Go ahead and click to the next slide. Now, this is the part where pathos becomes a major part of the argument. And he also is going to be using Caesar's body as part of his prop list. Not exactly sure why it's doing all that. It's so awesome. If you have tears, prepare to shed them now. You all do know this mantle. I remember the first time ever Caesar put it on. 'Twas on a summer's evening in his tent when he overcame the Nervi. So now he's looking at the different clothes that he's using. All right. Look, in this place ran Cassius's dagger through. See what a rent the envious Casca made. Through this the well-beloved Brutus stabbed. And now here we go. He shows the different stab wounds that are inside of Caesar. So this is my drawing of a knife. As he plucked the cursed steel away, mark how the blood of Caesar followed it. It was rushing out of doors to be resolved if Brutus so unkindly knocked or no. For Brutus, as you know, was Caesar's angel. And in this case, he's referring to how much Caesar actually admired and liked Brutus. And in fact, during the civil war with Pompey, Caesar was unusually merciful with Brutus. Judge, O you gods, how dearly Caesar loved him. This was the most unkindest cut of them all, and when noble Caesar saw him but stab, ingratitude more strong than traitor's arms quite vanquished him. Then burst his mighty heart. In other words, Caesar didn't die of the stab wounds, he died of a broken heart. Once again, back to the appeal to pathos and emotions. Injustice is another word that's in the midst of this. Why, friend, now at this point the rioters, or the plebeians, are ready to go and riot. And he goes, and he hasn't even read the will to them, but they're ready to go and burn everybody up. Why, friends, you go to do you know not what? Wherein hath Caesar thus deserved your loves? Alas, you know not. I must tell you then, you have forgot the will. At this point, he begins to read the will of Caesar, at which point they start to freak out, because that's actually a lot of money back in Roman times, and the plebeians would have been happy to have it. So once again, the appeal to pathos. Moreover, he hath left you all of his walks, his private arbors, new planted orchards on this side of Tiber. He left them to you. Rhetorical question. Here was a Caesar, when comes such another. And once again, we have pathos, because you're going to get all of this money, you're going to get all of this land. Here was an awesome Caesar, when comes another. And the plebeians respond, never. And then they go and they burn everything up, and they kick Cassius and Brutus out of Rome. So that's basically how our guy, Mark Antony, uses the props of Caesar's will and Caesar's body, appeals to emotions, as well as verbal irony and repetition to prove his point. And that's why his speech is a lot more powerful than Brutus's, which is rather logical in nature.